welcome everybody. We are joined here today with an amazing guest, Giorgia, who
Thank you very
decided
much.
to be,
Too kind.
yeah, you, Georgia, decided to bet on gaming and create a new life for yourself.
Yes,
Welcome, Georgia.
no betting, but yes, a lot of gaming.
Thank you, Georgia. You and I met, I think, 10 years ago or something. Back in the days,
Too long.
too long ago. We were doing some economics courses, trying to understand what sort of fractions to use in a specific formula. But a long time has passed since then. So, where are you now? And what do you do? To start with.
How much time do you have?
All the time you like. All the time you like.
So I now live in New York. So left Italy behind, and I have a very peculiar job. I am a professional bridge player and a bridge teacher. Bridge is a card game for all of our listeners that have no idea what we're talking about. Bridge is a card game, and yeah, that's my job. I play professionally, and I teach other people how to play.
If I want to start learning how to play, then I know who to call.
Definitely. Quit
but,
your day job because it takes a while, but then call me.
But then I think uh, could you summarize in 2 minutes what happened over the last 10 years? Because, like I said, you and I were studying economics, and I probably spent too much time applying for jobs.
That's exactly what happened.
But could you summarize it just for those listening?
I mean,
the last 10 years.
the way you started the question is basically exactly what happened. Graduated, after 5.5 years of, I don't want to say sweat and tears because I didn't really sweat much and I definitely never cried, but 5 years of relatively hard work in college. And I started looking for jobs and applying. And I mean, I couldn't really find anything that was not... I hope you have enough money to pay for your gas and get to work, because that's all that we are giving you. And I just decided I was not... I mean, first of all, I couldn't really afford it, to be honest. I couldn't really afford to work for free. I wasn't in the, financial situation to do that. And I just didn't want to work for free. So I decided that, the main venues, the main things I wanted to pursue, they were all, requiring just free internships and this and that. And I said, no, this is not working. I didn't study 5.5 years to go work for free for another 3. And so I just decided to look for alternatives. And Bridge was an easy alternative just because I'd been doing it for a long time. So I always had that sort of second option in my pocket. And that's it. So I moved to New York. I bought a one-way ticket, all my nice savings, one-way ticket, and decided to try. Didn't have that much to lose. I mean, worst case scenario was gonna have a fun adventure in New York for a few months and then go back home with a tail between my legs. But that was the worst case scenario. So I figured it was worth a shot, and it worked. So this is literally all I've been doing: playing bridge every day, teaching, traveling a lot, and I left all of the microeconomics and microeconomics behind me, which is definitely for the best because I never really understood them very well.
And Georgia, let's jump back to the very beginning. Like, actually, what was the spark that got you started with this game? Like, bridge is usually not a very common game, right? Card game for
well,
people to
my
choose.
parents play bridge. Lots of people in my family, especially my parents. So I grew up around the game. I was always, I spent endless nights sleeping at the bridge club on the bench when my parents played. And so the connection to the game was easy. I always say I'm lucky that I didn't hate it because my parents were doing it. I always feel like in life, most of the time you refuse everything your parents really like. I was lucky I went the other way around. I really wanted to do it because they were doing it. I wanted to be in the, the grown-ups world, and they were playing this weird game. So, once I decided I wanted in, it was very easy because I literally was surrounded by people that played bridge probably 80% of my day life. So it was very easy to start and stay in it once I decided I wanted to learn.
But for sure, like one thing is when you have people playing around and playing it for fun. One thing is to do it professionally. Was there like any haha moment or any specific thing that made you realize, yeah, I want to do that in this specific moment, right?
I didn't really realize I wanted to do it, in the sense, of course, when you love something, it's like, oh, they give you the option of making it your job. Of course, everybody wants to do it. It's great to make of your passion your daily job. But it was more like it was the only thing I could do, in the sense when I decided I'd always wanted to live in the US. That's sort of why, I went to college, even in Italy, studied in English. I always really wanted to leave Italy and go somewhere else. But for those of you that don't know, moving to the US is really not quite that easy from a legal standpoint. It's not so simple to get, visas or green cards. You usually have to have a job behind that sponsors you and all of that. And basically, Bridge just became my way to get a visa. I was able to acquire a visa for special skills through Bridge. So basically, long process of proving that my bridge skills were good enough that it was legally acceptable for Americans to choose to hire me over other Americans. That's basically the bottom line of what the process determines. And so once you get a visa via Bridge, you're not legally allowed to work doing anything else. And so that's really what channeled my career, because that was the only way I had to stay in the US, was to get a visa with Bridge, and that was the only work I could legally do with that visa. So I didn't really have much of a choice, even though I love it, and I'm glad it went that way. I really didn't have any other alternative except illegal work, basically. So that was it.
Understood. And when you say like a job, maybe you can explain to our audience here, because you do not just play bridge, right? You also teach bridge.
Play and teach. Yeah, I mean, it's bridge is it's a mix of a lot of different things. I always describe it as a mix between chess and a language. They're very two different things, but they're very similar. Chess is very strategic, so you have to teach. You teach people the moves and the whole idea of thinking ahead, planning your strategy ahead of time, being prepared for what might come back at you and how to counter that. So there's a lot of strategizing. And then there is the language part, like you have to sort of speak with your partner, but you use a special code, kinda. So you have to have a little bit of that ability, which again, it's hard to really explain so quickly. So that's basically what I do when I teach. We just have lessons, and we play, and I tell people, that was the wrong move, that was the right move, did you think about your next move? That's basically most of my day-to-day operations. And then there is tournaments. So for tournaments, my parallel I always do is like a tennis double. So imagine that you could hire any tennis professional, which you can actually, it's not that strange, but let's say it was very common that you just hire a tennis professional and you go to a tennis tournaments, and the amateur plays the tennis doubles with a teacher, and that's basically my contribution when it just comes to playing. I am their partner, and I just help them do well and also improve, pointing things out as you play. But in that case, it's a little bit less full-on teaching and more just we go and play together. And of course, it's more fun, right?
Yeah,
People
full-on
sometimes,
coach.
yeah, people sometimes are like, oh, but isn't that weird? Isn't that cheating? I'm like, listen, if you could go play Wimbledon, playing with Roger Federer and paying him, would you think it's weird, or would you be like, oh my God, that's so cool, I want to do it? I would be like, oh my God, that's so cool, I want to do it. So I think it's, I don't think it's so weird, but you know, that's my second half of my job.
I think, I mean, that's, I would definitely pay for someone expert to play with me.
That's right.
And
I mean, it's obvious.
maybe,
Duh.
and potentially even thinking of winning. You know, that's even that would
Yeah.
probably lose big time if I even put my hand on any of the cards. But I think so. When I'm looking at, you know, I'm thinking about all that you share so far. You know, a lot of years, a lot of decisions. The decision to decide, you know, to stay in the US, bet everything on bridge effectively, because that was your only way in or way out, if you will. Did you ever have a moment where you were thinking, am I doing the right thing, or should I just you know, go back to the path that I know, or that I think I know, that probably other thousands peers of mine are doing? Did you ever that nagging thought? You know, you're going through the process, going through the visa, you got the visa, you start working, you're like, I guess that's it. I need to I need to do this for the foreseeable future. But did you get that thinking, that nagging thought? That
I mean, yes, it wasn't really about what other people were doing. It was more about, you know, I could do a little bit more with my life, and I could maybe like leave a little bit of a impact, you know, in this planet. I was, you know, when I was in college, I wanted to be a diplomat. I wanted to work for the UN. I wanted to do things that, in theory, and that's what I really come to then understand, with time, are supposed to have a little bit more of an impact on society and other people. And so that was really my only, and sometimes still is my only, the only question in my mind, like, could I do a little bit more with my life, rather than just sit and teach people how to play bridge. So that's the only thing I ever ask myself. It's not really about others. And actually, others are the thing that makes me realize I'm definitely doing the right thing. Because when I see, all the uncertainties and stress and, that my other friends go through with everyday regular jobs, in a way, that's what really makes me go like, who cares? I love what I do. I don't have to stress. I'm self-employed. I make my own schedule. I don't have to listen to anyone. So looking around kind of makes me feel the other way, more like, wow, this was really a good decision. But yes, I do feel like sometimes having a bigger impact in the world would be nicer. But I tell myself that that's what I'm gonna do when I retire. When I retire, I'm gonna go help the world. That's what I convince myself with. We'll see if that happens. But
and what would that look like?
I don't know, volunteering. Maybe like teaching English to people in need, like go to Africa and teach the little kids. I mean, who knows? It's very easy to say that that's what you want to do. It's much harder to actually pack your bags and go do it. But anyways, one way or another, I hope that I'll be able to do something a little bit more. Give back sort of thing, in the future when I have more time and when I don't need to work all the time.
And you mentioned earlier, right? You had your thoughts, but then you look around and realize, I think I'm quite happy with what I'm doing.
Right.
Surely, you would also speak to people on the other side, if you can call it the other side, that they're doing their own thing, their daily jobs, and so on. Do they ever actually share kind of an interest in what you do, and kind of they ask you, "Oh, that looks very interesting. How can I make such a what they consider potentially a drastic move, a drastic change to their life?" Do they have that curiosity and about what you do? And
I mean, curiosity for sure. Honestly, like whenever we meet somebody, some new friends or whatever, I already know that the evening is gonna be revolved around explaining what I do for a living. Because you meet people and they're like, oh, and what do you do? Oh, and what do you do? And then when I start talking about what I do, it's like the Pandora box. Everybody's like, what? I can't believe it. This is amazing. So definitely a lot of interest. But I feel like if you don't have some kind of long-term passion or something, it's really not easy, almost not feasible to switch your life halfway through. I mean, there has to be a very strong alternative, so it's not going to be easy, I feel, when you're 35 or 40 years old to go do something that you have absolutely never done before. So I feel like for most people, it's not really an option. I mean, of course, anybody can try, and you know what? If good for you if you want. But I think having a little bit of a underlying second passion that you can draw from, it's pretty important. So most people, I feel like, in my experience, either don't have it, or maybe they had it and they just didn't cultivate it because they just, it was like, I don't have time anymore. I can't do both. So that's probably what most people lack, an alternative, even when they find, like, inspirational stories of people that, figured it out. Having a strong alternative, it's important. And, not that many people do. I mean, honestly, I don't have an alternative to bridge, so I understand it. Like, I don't really have a plan B, in the sense I put all my time and effort into it, so it would be very hard if I wanted to change now to do something else.
And I imagine that when you speak to people, people will be very impressed, very surprised about your story, what you do for a living. Are there any times, have been there any times where you receive like challenges about your journey when speaking to people? Like what kind of challenges you received?
I feel like at this point, not anymore. I mean, there is always the challenge within the world. So, that's sort of a different story, of being a woman, being young. So that's sort of a different conversation, so to speak. But from the outside world, not that much anymore. Definitely when I was younger, but mostly my parents, not me so much, just because people weren't really, I was too young. People weren't really coming to me and be like, what are you doing? But definitely my parents received plenty of challenges when I was little, and people feeling like, what am I doing? She's 14, she's 15. Why is she playing bridge? She should be doing other things. So there's definitely that sort of preconception that I was not doing what I was supposed to do with my time. And by the way, if you want to take a bridge, let me tell you, there is time to do everything. So it doesn't mean that because you're playing bridge, you don't have time to do other things. But I was definitely spending a lot more time doing this than I was, out playing with people my age and stuff like that. So definitely when I was young, a lot of challenges, but again, mostly to my parents. And I'm very thankful that they sticked it out, and they didn't let all of those voices give them doubt that what I was doing was fine, was good. So if it was up to a lot of other people my parents' age, I would probably not be here today. They would have probably stopped my journey a long time ago.
I think you said something quite interesting and powerful. Now you said now it's working, right? Now it's there is, you mentioned success.
Proof of concept.
Yeah, the POC has been tested. So I think the question is, when did you know that it was working, or actually even further back, when did you start seeing the signals that this thing has legs to not only to walk but to run too?
Well, I have to say, in that regard, I mean, New York, I don't want to say the US, because honestly, my experience outside of New York is quite limited. So moving to New York was definitely key, in the sense, in Italy, I would never really have been able to pursue this career in this way. I have plenty of friends that I grew up playing bridge with that are bridge teachers or professionals in Italy. And in Italy, it's a world of struggle, just like in any other job. Like, it's not an easy job. Like, I kind of have an easy job here. I don't really struggle to find work or to, in Italy, it's not the same. Even in bridge, Italy is a little far behind, in the job market, so to speak. So coming to the US was crucial, both in terms of, client pool, and in terms of, which is also a huge difference on what I experienced back home, giving young people a chance. I feel like in Italy, we are so focused on, oh, they're a little older, so they must know better. It's always this thing that the older people, they have more experience, they know better, they know how to do it better. And, young people really, really have to struggle to get through and be recognized or, accepted in a way. So, when I was in Italy, I mean, nobody gave me a chance. Nobody was like, oh, let's see if you can teach somebody how to do this. And I came to New York, and honestly, I showed up at the bridge club, and a week later I was shadowing the teacher, and 2 weeks later I was holding the course. And that would have never happened at home, because there was the 75-year-old lady that had been doing it for 50 years. So definitely she must be better than you that are 25. This is the approach that we have, or at least that I've experienced back home. But I think, unfortunately, is a good generalization. While, in the US, or at least here in New York, is very much the opposite. We want young people, we want fresh blood, fresh ideas, different ways to look at things. So I think that was the key, that they gave me a chance, that they, gave me a little bit of guidance, and then they just threw me out in the pool and be like, hope you learn how to swim, because either you swim or you drown. And you learn how to swim when that's the case.
So the context is definitely, ensuring the success here as well. And can we say Georgia is living the American dream then?
100%. And for people that say that the American dream is dead, they are lying to you. The American dream is still alive. I mean, I don't want to say that there aren't a million things about America I don't like, but I think that would be the case about every country where you could live in. But definitely alive, definitely kicking. The number of opportunities and people willing to give you a chance are endless, and really refreshing, again, coming from a very, very different culture and very different point of view.
Every sport, every game has its sort of golden tournament, right? Footballers dream about playing in the World Cup. For tennis players, they want to go Wimbledon. How does it look like for bridge?
Same, really. So bridge has European championships, world championships, the Olympics. They have basically the same sort of tournaments that other games, other sports have. And then there are three major tournaments that happen in the US every year, in the spring, in the summer, and in the fall, the nationals. So those are the, let's say, outside of world championship, European champion, outside of those tournaments, the nationals are the most important, the most prestigious. Each national has a lot of different tournaments happening at the same time. So it's a tournament really open to anyone, different levels. But each one of them has its own main event. It's kind of like the World Series of Poker. If any of you are more familiar with that, being a more familiar game, if you go to the World Series, there are a lot of different events happening, but then each time there is the main event. So in bridge is kind of the same. So the nationals, so winning a national event is a very, very prestigious goal. And then, of course, going to the World Championship, or for Europeans, going to the European Championship. Those are definitely, the most prestigious things that you can aim for.
And how does a professional player prepare for these kind of tournaments? Like, what is the training looking like?
That's actually very hard. I just came back from a very big tournament this summer in Poland, and I had exactly this discussion / realization that, with my everyday busy schedule, I really don't have the time, and actually the way, more than the time, to practice my own bridge a lot. because, it's very different to teach somebody how to walk if you're trying to, go to the Olympics and win the 50-meter sprint. It's a very different way of applying your skills. So I've really realized spending a week there playing, very, very high level, how I was first of all exhausted, like I just, did not have enough stamina for it, and how I really struggled, especially the first few days, to switch gears, and apply my skills in a different way, like among peers rather than me and a bunch of students. So it's hard. You have to go to tournaments. You just have to play. There is no other way than playing. But it's very important that you play with against people of your own level. That's really the key. Because you can play all day, but if you play against beginners all day, you don't really, you're not stimulating your brain and your thoughts, because 1/10 of your energy is good enough. While you have to put yourself in positions and in situations where you need 100% of your energy if you want to do well, and that's when it gets hard. It's not easy to find as a professional. We spend most of our time playing with clients, with students, because that's how you make money. So it requires a little bit of, I should work a little less and maybe just go play bridge for fun with peers a little bit more, and, see that as an investment, as a practice that, will hopefully yield better results in the future. So it's not easy, but that's what you got to do. Play, and against the best possible competition you can find.
And win, ideally win.
Well, even if you don't win, even if you get your butt kicked, it's a good learning lesson if you're not winning.
So what's going to happen in next 10 years? So how do you see your what you're doing evolve, or how do you want to develop it further? What are you going to focus on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I always, I'm very ambitious and creative in a way within my world. So there is a lot I want to do. So my dream, which is gonna be hard, and I'm not sure it's ever, I don't know if I'll have the energy, to fulfill it. But my dream would be to at least part-time go back home and reopen the bridge club where I learned and where I spent, most of my childhood, that closed many years ago. So that would be really my dream, to go back, reopen the place, and sort of bring everything I learned, a new perspective on how to run things and how to, how to teach, and in general, like everything I sort of learned here. And that would be my main goal, my main dream. That would require, a big life change, because again, I don't want to leave New York fully, but I would definitely have to be back in Rome at home, especially at the beginning, for the vast majority of the time. So, that would be a big life change, but it's in the cards, maybe, yeah, in the next 10 years or so. Fortunately, my husband is on board, so that's good news. He's in tech and he can't wait. He's like, I just want to make focaccia and Negronis, and I'm like, listen, let's do it. I teach them how to play bridge, and you make focaccia and drinks. I think it's gonna be a good team.
There's something here is quite powerful around the around locations. You talk about that New York gave you a lot, or continues to give you a lot. At the same time, you have your heart seems to be set on Rome in the longer term, and and of course these days there's a lot of talk about remote work, and you're online, you can do everything online, and I understand that a good part of what you do is also online. How important do you think is or will be location versus continuing doing what you do online in the prospect of moving to Rome in 10 years, for example? Would you feel like you would still need to go back to New York a lot, or do you feel like being online gives you a chance to balance things out?
I definitely don't think I will be going back to full-time in-person work. That's not really, it's not in the cards, it's not feasible. Also, the schedule is honestly too busy, schedules. I mean, I would have to revolutionize all my schedule, because in person requires a lot of dead times of commuting and going from one place to another. I work with clients, so you go from one client to the next client. So the schedule would not really work. And honestly, even my clients, most of them are not in New York that much or full time anymore. They enjoy the fact that they can be whatever they want and not have to miss the class. So both sides enjoy the online. Of course, in person has its perks. It's nice to be together, it's nice to see people. And you also you need to fuel the pool of people to work with. And I think that it's very hard to produce a lot of new bridge players only online. It's definitely an extra challenge for a game that is already hard to learn. If you take away the more social aspect of it, it's going to be even harder to produce a lot of new people. So there is going to have to be some portion of in-person activity, which again, it's good, it's nice, it's not a bad thing. But I'll definitely not be going back to in-person full-time work. That is for sure. I decided when once I saw how many hours of the day I got back. Before the pandemic, I never came home before 9:30 or 10 p.m. every night. And now at 6 p.m. I'm done, and I worked the same hours, if not more, but I just saved 3-4 hours a day of going from one place to the other. And that's a lot. It's too much time to waste traveling from one location to the next.
And Giorgia, looking back, what would you do differently? How and why? And would you do anything differently at all?
I know. I mean, I don't really want to sound like so full of myself, but really nothing, to be honest. I mean, I'm not saying that it was always easy, but I mean, nothing. And even sometimes people wonder, or but was it worth it to spend so much time and money studying to then end up doing something that has nothing to do with it? And even that, I would never change it, for many reasons. First of all, for all the people I met, honestly, that they're such a huge part of my life. I don't know, I can't even imagine. But besides that, I think just studying, going to school, even if you don't need it and you don't use it, it's such a huge impact on the way you see life, the way you approach people, the way you organize yourself. So even that I wouldn't change. Honestly, if it wasn't for the people, maybe I would go to public school next, since I didn't really use it. But besides that, I would definitely still go through, the pain of studying again. That's it. That would be the only thing that you could imagine changing, but I wouldn't, because it was it was amazing years. And again, I learned a lot from the process of going to school and being responsible and all of that.
There is something you just said around what is known as sunk cost.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've gone through your formal education, you've done all that you've done, and then you decided, okay, you know what, let me put this to the side. And then you went straight into bridge. People would potentially be in a similar situation whereby they spend a good amount of time doing something, or in a field, or in a role, and perhaps moving to do something new. It's challenging, even from a psychological point of view, because you have to deal with that nagging thought in the back of your mind that, I've spent so much time doing this, I don't want to let it go. What would you tell that person on how to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all a matter of seeing the time you spent as time that you learned, you experienced. And I think, I mean, of course, there might be exception to the rule where you really can't find any common ground between the two things you want to do. But I think it's rare. I think in most, even though, again, the application of what you're doing is very different, what you learn from it, it's always going to be beneficial. You can always find things in common that will help you, be more successful in your second career, on your second path, just because you did something else before. Again, even if they don't relate to each other, having done it, having stuck through it, I think it's always gonna be beneficial. And anyways, you know what I mean? If it's not working, what's the point of worrying about whether the next thing might not work? That's what I always tell my students. We're like, but I was so worried it wouldn't work. I'm like, what the hell are you worrying about? If the first thing is not really working very well, you may as well hope that the second one is working better. And if not, it's all the same. So if the first career is not working, it's, you're not happy, it's not going the way you want it to go, it's not like you have a whole lot to lose. So to me, that's like my approach to most things in life, really. You don't have much to lose. Try it, and worst case scenario, you usually can go back, unless you burn too many bridges. So don't burn bridges. Talking about
which, I mean, no pun intended.
No pun intended. Don't burn bridges.
Don't burn bridges when you play bridge.
That's right.
So you're really highlighting the importance of having a forward-looking mentality to say, I've done what I've done. I've learned what I've learned. It's been a good ride. Let's go on to the next one. Nothing is actually ever lost. It's just part of your toolkit of experiences. Of course,
it's all in the bag. You can always draw back from the bag at any point if you need some experience later on in life.
Indeed. And you mentioned also that it wasn't easy. So if we could go back and could you walk us through the bad, the ugly, and if there is, the ugliest?
Well, for me, the only bad/ugly has been adapting to the cultural differences. That has been the hardest thing. Of course, mostly in bridge, because that's what I'm doing all the time, but I'm sure the same kind of hardships you could find in other, areas. Coming from Italy, we are very direct, very open. We usually speak our mind, and I've learned to understand, not everybody does that. Not everybody speaks their mind and is very open. And B, not everybody appreciates people that speak their mind and are very open all the time. So, I've definitely had to learn to zip it, as they say, a little bit here and there. As I said before, when you come into a new world, you're a young girl, you're a foreign, and you're a little bit alien almost, so to speak, in the local world. So there is definitely there was definitely some innate resistance by a lot of people. And again, my exuberance and my very Italian personality was not always appreciated, let's say. Here, again, I don't want to generalize Americans. I don't have the data to make that statement. But here, the people I have been in touch with, have definitely been a little less direct. There is a lot of pretending to like each other, but we don't necessarily like you. And that has been something I've had to learn to adjust to. Like, I actually thought very often that people liked me, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, but you were so nice to me 5 minutes ago. What is going on? So that has been definitely, it has not been so easy, because again, I was here alone and I didn't really know anyone. So that rejection of your personality and of your way of, handling things has not been easy. I can't really say I've changed, but I've definitely learned to be a little bit less, maybe, exuberant and overly sharing. And I've also learned to take things not so, not to really believe everything I see around me all the time. I've learned that there is a lot of a little bit of two-faced behavior. And you know what, here they say to make nice. Now I know that a lot of people just want to make it nice, and again, you learn. But that was definitely the hardest thing, learning not to expect people to tell you what they thought and how they were feeling all the time, which is definitely my my cultural experience. People will tell you what they think, whether you like it or not.
now we are approaching the end of our episode, and what is your best piece of wisdom, to someone who might be listening right now and maybe struggling to figure out what to do next in their lives, thinking, man, shall I quit this thing? Shall I jump into this new adventure? Shall I follow my passions? So what would you tell them right now?
I mean, of course, I have to tell them to follow their passion because I would really be a little too hypocritical if I didn't. So, yes. I mean, I would also say, that you have to be, it can't just be about following a passion. That has to be, a feasible way to make it a real job. I don't see being a bridge teacher, a bridge professional as a fun, I'm just going to travel and play bridge kind of thing. I have a full-time job. I wake up at 8 a.m. every day. I work 8, 9, 10 hours a day. I don't, I'm not, it's not that because it's a weird job, it's any less of a full-time commitment. And that's something even in my world that not everybody does and not everybody sees that way, like, oh, I'm a bridge pro, so I'm going to get up at noon and then I'll play for a couple hours. That is a very common approach to the type of work. So I would say that even if it's your passion, it's still your full-time job. It's still what's providing for your life. So it has to be taken seriously. It has to be professional. And just because it's unconventional, it doesn't mean that it should not be, again, taken very seriously and, make a business plan, make a plan for the future. How do I improve? How does my, revenue improve? I mean, all of that. Just because it's different doesn't mean that approach to your job and your future should change.
Right. So, and this is an important takeaway, I think, for people out there. So, doing something unconventional doesn't mean doing randomly, right?
Yes.
So, planning, preparation,
Totally.
schedule, that is always there.
Yes, and the number of people, that tell me, oh, Giorgia, you're always on vacation, take so many vacations. No, I'm never on vacation. I am traveling for work. I'm not on vacation. I actually, work all the time. So there is definitely that misconception that because I play bridge, I have a easier lifestyle, which I definitely do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not working in the mines, so we all do. Absolutely, I have an easy lifestyle. I don't want to make it sound like I don't, but don't make it too easy. Don't think that just because you have the power to make your own schedule and to make, to decide for your own work life, you should make it that much easier than, a boss would make it, because you're your own boss and you have to be hard on yourself. Otherwise, it's very easy to slack and become, not accomplish as much as you could.
Otherwise you would jump into something and then you take it easy.
Yeah, you don't know how to do it, you take it easy, and that's when things don't work, right? You have to know how to do it, you have to have a plan, and you got to work very hard. That's about it. Sounds easy, but it's,
definitely not easy.
Exactly.
Right. I think we've come to the end of this episode. We have definitely touched on so many topics, many areas, a lot of decision made. Yes. And from my side, many thanks for your time. It's been, I think I've learned a few things.
Thank you, and thank for everybody that is listening to us. Sorry if we went a little long, but hopefully we entertained you along the way.
Thank you very much, Giorgia.
Thank you, guys. Good luck with your adventure. New adventure. Exactly what we were talking about. Unconventional.
Indeed.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bye.